I'm delighted to be in Porto this time, and I think I'd like to thank very much organizers for inviting me, and I'd like to thank companies like Taylor's, Amorin, and others doing his best to sponsor these conferences. Actually, I'd like to say thank you very much to Pancho, because you have done a fantastic job along the years. I remember 2006 in Barcelona, the first symposium Pancho held about climate change. And I was there with my little talk too, addressing. And then again, I think it was 2008 or 2009 in Marbella, southern part of Spain. You all know. And then, of course, along the years we had several contacts, but it's amazing, what Pancho is doing for trying to change things. I think he agrees with me in saying that we should stop using the word sustainable. It is not sustainable, my friends. The world we are living is not going to be sustainable. We have to make big changes, and it's possible to make big changes. Well, let's start by saying, actually, I was fascinated by this subject, climate change, and everything related, paleoclimatology, climate, everything. And that's thanks to Al Gore. Al Gore, 2008, and a movie called An Inconvenient Truth. And I saw that movie with my wife. At the end, I said to my wife, listen, that's terrible. This is going to affect our vineyards. And we live from the earth. We need the vineyards to be healthy. We need the vineyards to have the temperature they need, because they are very sensitive, very sensible to the changes. So some weeks after, in our family board, I propose that we invest in our company every year 10% of the profit in investments, renewable energies, research, biomass, electric cars, water, and so forth. And we have done it. We have done it since, and that's why we're up to 12 million euros or more of investment. And I'm going to show you what we have done. So it is possible. It is possible in every company, in every family, to start saying, stop, we had to do something. Well, actually, let me show you just a bit. I read more than 50 books about climate change in these last 10 years. It's amazing, sometimes you're reading one of these books. When you are up to chapter number 2, then you think about it and you say, well, what's going on here? This is wrong. This guy is telling me that nothing is happening. Climate change is not really something happening. And then you look at his name, in Wikipedia, and you find out that this author belongs to an American institute which is sponsored by coal and oil companies. Fine, right? Then you realize this another negationist, but you still read the book anyhow. Well, and of course, Nature Climate Change, something I recommend to those of you interested in the subject. Well, temperatures have been rising. We know it's already more than 1 degree in many areas of the world. Even in the Arctic, it's more, it's 3 degrees in the last 50 years. And this is very serious because, according to James Lovelock, as you know, well, if temperatures, let me use that one maybe. Yeah, it works. See, we are getting closer and closer to this. That was the world after glaciation, okay, 20,000 years ago. This is with 5 more degrees. Still, we are not there yet, but listen, the Arctic is getting closer and closer to this. The Antarctic is keeping the ice much better. So the actual figure is obsolete. We're getting closer and closer to this. Well, I'm just showing this picture. Organization told me, please, Miguel, don't show all these things because they all know. Well, just in case, just in case you meet one of these negationists, okay? I'm sure you got friends like this, right? And they say well, this happened before. We had warm periods, we had cold periods. So what? It's another warm period. Wrong. And that's why you take only these periods, 500 million of years since the Cambric days, okay? And these temperatures along this time, the middle here is 15 degrees, what we used to have in the 20th century. These are glaciations, and these are warmer periods. So there were many warm periods, that's right. But take at this, in the Paleocene-Eocene point, at this time, temperatures started to increase. They went up to 6 degrees. But what's the difference? It took 20,000 years, my friends. 20,000 years. Say this to your negationist friends, okay? And today, in only 200 years, see what we have done. That's why they call this period not anymore Holocene, but Anthropocene, the man, because we are doing it. We are responsible. Well, we had warm periods, like the warm period in Middle Ages, that's 1,000 years ago, a little less. But see, the temperatures increase 0.5 degrees, much less than now. So today, we have a much warming period compared to Middle Age warming period. It was followed by the small ice age. Again, temperatures here decrease 0.4, 0.5. These changes still, they were important. Well, time to eat less meat, my friends. Start to become vegetarian, right? That's something you can do. And it's nice. I love to eat chickpeas or lentils or white beans. They are delicious. And then, you know, they have good proteins. Don't worry. Well, you all know that. There is a close relation in the last years between concentration, parts per million of carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases, and temperatures. No one can deny that is the way it goes. Right, but you know, it's not the end. We may have bigger problems in the near future. Take a look at this. John Holdren, he was advisor to Obama president. John Holdren, I met him in New York 2 years ago, and he's very concerned by methane ice bubbles in Alaska. Methane here is stored or is covered by ice, and it's not going to the troposphere, to our part of atmosphere. But this is changing because the ice is melting, and then a lot of methane is already leaving. But it will be more in the future. And according to Professor Holdren, there is more greenhouse gases below the permafrost than we have today in the troposphere. So the potential of danger of increasing temperatures is big. Well, this is in the last 50 years or so. See, red color means 3 degrees. And 3 degrees, that's what they got in the Arctic area. In Spain and Portugal, it's about 1 degree down here. Why have they increased so much in the Arctic? Well, it's very simple. It's what we call Albedo Effect. Before, the Arctic was already, of course, all this ice was reflecting the solar light, reflecting the short waves of the solar light, solar sun, X-rayon, gamma rayons, and so forth, ultraviolets. They were reflected into the atmosphere. Not anymore. There is less and less ice in the Arctic, and that's what's causing this warming in this northern part. Well, the Arctic, you know, the Arctic is almost in the summer. That's why it's not here anymore in this chart. Glaciers also melting. We still have the Antarctic. The Antarctic is keeping still, and is actually our reserve of ice in the planet. Well, so this is the final result. We have more or less half of the emissions stay in the sea and in the continent. In the continent, in the Earth, that's because of photosynthesis that our vines do every day, right? And they absorb CO2 by photosynthesis, correct? But also, you know, the sea has done a fantastic job storing CO2. There are millions of gigatons of CO2 stored in the ocean, especially in the deeper parts. Why? Because it's cooler, and carbon dioxide blends very well with the cold water, and it's stored down there. What's going to happen when the ocean warms? Say 1 degree more. Well, all this CO2, good part of it, will go again up to the troposphere. More warming. In the sea also, there is a very good work done by in photosynthesis by the phytoplankton, you know, algae and all these living things floating on the sea. What we call the zooplankton as well. Tiny animals also absorbing CO2 to produce their own shells. I don't get into details. I'm delighted to address you to these books. But that's what it is. But the rest, of course, goes to the atmosphere. Well, present-day balance. What do we have? We, the guys with the vineyards. Have a look at this. 2017, Chile, one of our vineyards burned. And the part that was not burned, the grapes were no good because they got all the smoke, right? And the wine was terrible. In Chile, in this year, 500,000 hectares burned. 500,000 hectares. It was terrible. And, well, we got also frost in Penedès. We got also hail in the northern part of Catalonia. What a fantastic time. And that's what expects for us, viticulturists, more and more of these, situations in the future. Well, and what is that going to be like in the next years? Well, first, I'd like you to have a look at this graphic. Yeah, this part here. Yeah, these are the temperatures, you see. These are here in this part of the graphic. In this line, we represent the time. So today is here, in 100 years, 500, and 1,000. If you look at the emissions of CO2, this point, we are expected to reach this point in 2040. 2040 maybe will be the maximum of CO2 emissions, okay? Maximum. From then, CO2 emissions will begin to decline, and of course, they will disappear. But temperatures, have at this graphic here, temperatures, maximum, they will stabilize. And will they stay like this? They will stay like this for several centuries. So the problem is not going to be solved in 30, 40 years, end of the century. Not at all. And the consequence, sea level will continue to rise, and the melting also of the ices several millennia. Well, nothing to be optimistic, my friends. I'm sorry that maybe I'm spoiling your day, but, well, that's what I think, really. And as a man who lives close to the earth, I think it's important that we know the reality. Well, they are still discussing, this from Nature magazine, if carbon dioxide, which is more and more present in the air, in the troposphere, can fertilize a plant. It is true, but it's not clear yet whether this is going to help to avoid flows into the river, more flows, more to stream flows and so forth. Well, that's our investment, including the land we bought in the last years. And that includes forests in Catalonia, in Chile, replanting forests, for example, Canary Islands as well, we've done something. Water reservoirs, that's something every viticulturist, every vineyard has to have in the near future, because we're going to have to irrigate in the summer. Here in the Iberian Peninsula, forget about, our storms in the summer, more or less. I mean, we were privileged. It was not like in Chile or California that in the summer they didn't get any rain. We got rain. But now this may change, and it's changing. We want to have more and more drought, and we have to have more and more reservoirs to irrigate. Well, there are things we can do, as a viticulturist, changing the patterns of our vines, like changing rootstocks. What we will look, in these changes, we look for adapting our vineyards to delay ripening. That's what we all want. We want to delay ripening. We don't want our grapes to ripen in August, which is happening now. Then we have this terrible balance between the phenolics and the sugar, right? So we have to delay maturation. And this can be done at least, 1 or 2 weeks by changing rootstocks, by selecting the clones that can come a little later, changing plant density, of course, avoiding de-leafing. I don't think anybody in this room is doing de-leafing anymore after veraison. Well, wine training height, the higher it is, you also slow down maturation. The canopy, smaller canopy, also we delayed maturation. We have a collection in Villafranca, this collection. You are welcome to visit when you come. And here, we show and we prove that you can have up to 2 or 3 weeks delayed putting all these elements together. And there are interesting things like, these nets used to protect from hail, okay? They are also delayed in maturation, at least few days. So it's, good news. And it looks like in the peninsula, we are going back to gobele. We have to go back to gobele. Gobele also delays maturation. So maybe, we have to forget about so much mechanization and get back to the old days. Fine. Organic viticulture. Is that the answer for the future? Well, maybe we need some changes. Yes. According to some studies done by Zaragoza University and others, when you compare the results of organic viticulture or ecological, as we say in Spanish, and traditional viticulture, we're using some synthesis products against fungus. At the end of the day, still you have more emissions on CO2 per hectare than traditional. It's very simple. When you have organic vines, we do have 800 hectares organic vines. Every week you have to spray sulfur or bouillie. You are spraying all the time. So that means more and more emissions. Okay? And then it's a problem with copper. Copper is toxic for the soils. And it's toxic for the plants, for the rabbits that are going to eat the plants, and for the humans that maybe we're going to eat the rabbit afterwards. So the dose of copper is being reduced by Brussels. I think we're down to 4 kilos now per hectare and year, but still it's too much. And we have to look for alternatives. That's why I invite you all come to Barcelona next Eco-Sustainable, 14th of May this year. It's a very technical symposium. Those of you which are in business in the vineyards, maybe you should come and listen to a specialist who will tell you on what could be done to keep organic viticulture and to improve it. Well, talking about these old days and Middle Ages, we found out, or we rediscovered a lot of these Catalan grapes that were lost at Phylloxera. It's silly on my side to tell you about these old viniferae, because in Portugal, I think you have the largest collection of old vitis viniferae in the world, probably, maybe Greece as well. But, well, we have done our job, and we have recovered about 50 of these Catalan vines that existed until Phylloxera arrived. And we are using today at least 12 of them with very good results. And some of these grapes, they seem like they keep the acidity better, and so they have a maturation which goes much farther, which is what we want. Okay, well, adapting is the word today. First of all, my friends, we have to adapt. There is a situation we cannot change now, so let's do our best to adapt our vineyards. Second, of course, there is always time to change of vinifera. I'm sure that in the next decades, you will see not much more Pinot Noir in Burgundy. They will have maybe to plant Tempranillo, I don't know. But it will be too much heat for Pinot Noir. This applies to every area. Maybe in Spain, where we grow Tempranillo in the future, we have to grow Monastrell, because Monastrell can cope much better with the heat. And then you have to buy land, if it is possible, at higher altitude. We have done 10 years ago, 120 hectares in Trem at 1,000 meters. Today, our best Riesling is produced there. And also in Benavarre at 1,200 meters, we are just beginning to see the Riesling to mature there, or the Gewürztraminer. In Chile, we bought land in Itata, more to the south, 230 hectares, next to a river, which is going to be important because Chile is going to be very much affected by drought. 2 minutes, yes. And this, the latest, we bought last year, 6,000 hectares, 6,000 in Patagonia. That's crazy. Everybody tells me, why do you do that? And it's not to plant vines, my friend. It's too cold. We're going to plant trees there. We're going to plant trees. And these trees, when growing, are going to take some of these awful greenhouse gases that we're putting in the troposphere every day with our cars, with our electricity. So that's going to be, I hope you can come to see it in 20 years and see all the forests recovered there. There was forest before the German settlers burned it in the 19th century. So you will come back. And then, of course, in the company, we use a lot of PVs, photovoltaics. We cover 25% of the needs, and it's growing, keep growing. We also use biomass, electric trains for the tourists. The tourists, they love it. Hey, what are you waiting in Porto? Come on. You should have electric buses for transportation. And of course, electric cars. I have an electric car, a Nissan Leaf. In my house, I have PVs as well. I produce my own electricity, my own, for the air condition, for the heating. And every night, I plug my car. And when I pass in front of a gasoline station, well, I feel so good, my friends. I can say, well, the hell with you. We are in a new world. We have to change. Well, the glasses, we all have reduced the weight of our glasses, but now in Brussels, last January, we told them, to the authorities, what are you waiting to have in Europe, a bottle of wine, like Bordeaux wine or Burgundy wine, bottle that we can reutilize, not recycle, reutilize at least 6 or 7 times. And then we have an important reduction on the carbon emissions. Well, these are the 3 scopes you have to have. I recommend everybody here to have his own audit of your companies. Have your audit by a specialized company to determine how much is your carbon footprint, okay, your emissions. But make sure they take all of them. The 1, fuels used in the winery. 2nd, the electricity you use. And 3rd, what you buy, from grapes to glasses, everything, and transportation. Because I know some companies, they just take 1 and 2, and say, well, I have done my job. I have reduced 50%. Wrong. It's not true. You have to have the 3 scopes. That's very important. Paul Roca remembers we had this discussion in Madrid. So, you see, I say it's very difficult to change because we've tried in Spain to have a group since 2011. It was called Wineries for Climate Protection. Well, at the end of this period, on 700 wineries that we have in Spain, in this federation, you know how many have come to join wineries? 20. You are listening well, only 20. And wineries is nothing special. You are not supposed to reduce much your emissions. It's something more sustainable. But people don't give importance to this. They just say, well, what can we do? So now maybe we're going to try to have another wineries which at least ask for 20% reduction on the carbon footprint. Well, we ask our farmers to reduce their carbon footprint, our suppliers, and they come along, they work with us, because suppliers and logistics are 80% of your carbon footprint. So it's better to talk to them. And we give awards every year. And finally, this what we have done also, which is very interesting. Sorry, I don't have much time. There are too many talks today, but this is called Carbon Capture and Reutilization, CCR. And we have done tests since 2016 with producing carbonates with a Korean company called Mi1 Methanation with Electrocare in organic carbonates. Finally, this year, if you come in April the 5th, we present to our friends this equipment produced by the German company Excitron can take 10% of the carbon dioxide we produce in the company. If everyone in the future is doing this carbon capture and reutilization, in that case it's methane, it becomes a biogas, it can be reused. It would be fantastic. I hope one day we can say, you drink a glass of wine, you are helping to reduce greenhouse gases. Because the CO2 from the fermentation is very pure, and we can work with it. So the effects on European viticulture are not very good. They are not very good news for the future. And these are several dates that we, at least in Brussels, I think they realize now they have to change. And is backing all the efforts in that sense. And imposing, for example, like in 2050, European authorities call for a Europe which is climate neutral. But James Green, director from NASA, said in 2015, humans must be prepared to go and live in Mars. That's what they say. I don't like this guy. I think he's awful. I don't want to go to Mars to plant my vineyards. I'd rather stay here with you, my friends, and keep this wonderful world, no? If we still can do it. And the last slide is on Greta Thunberg. Such a wonderful young lady, 15 years old, and she's saying European authorities, 40% is not enough. You should double. You should at least have 80%. And that's the target we all have to have. Maybe we can do even a little better. So remember, two things you can do. First, the audit of your own companies. Establish how much CO2 you have, emissions, and start to decarbonize your company. Second, when elections arrive, don't vote those parties that don't promise, at least promise, do something for climate. Third, maybe you can get a little vegetarian. And ask in the board if you can invest 10% of the profits every year. And remember, doing this is not going to increase your sales. Not at all. Nobody's going to buy your wine more because you are investing in mitigating climate change. But remember, you are doing this for the next generations. They deserve it. They deserve a better planet. Thank you very much.